All right, let's start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem, Rachakodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is In Thy Security Thou Shalt Be Destroyed. Like I said, I like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem, Rachakodash. This lesson was something I was meditating on, and something that's going on right now with Jake in general, both the northern and the southern kingdom. But reflecting more on the southern kingdom, and the only reason why is because the northern kingdom is getting their ass kicked by ICE, out here, and there was a cry made to the southern kingdom for help, and not all the southern kingdom, but a good portion of them mocked, laughed, and why should we help you, blah blah blah, this, that, and the other. And unbeknownst to the southern kingdom, they don't understand why they did that, and this goes back to an old rivalry that was going on between the two kingdoms, the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. There was a point where Ephraim and the northern kingdom were helping, I believe that was the Syrians, to fight against Judah. So Judah never forgot that, so it was like a ancient rivalry that has always been there between the two divided kingdoms. And this is why it's far more than just what you see in black and white, so to speak. It goes back, way back, just like the animosity that we have with Esau goes way back. It's not something that's just newly happened within the last few hundred years or whatever the case may be. It's something that's ancient, and there's like a direct link for having that division between the two kingdoms. Remember the Lord said in Zechariah, I believe that's 11, that the Most High broke his staff bands, and when he broke the staff bands is something that binds something together. So when he broke the staff bands, he said that I may break the brotherhood between Judah and Israel, the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. And that's pretty much what has happened ever since that time. That's why the Lord put the spirit, on King Solomon to, have an animosity towards Jeroboam, because he felt in the spirit that Jeroboam was going to get part of his kingdom. So it's more than just what meets the eye. You see all this going on, with the northern kingdom being persecuted by the ICE agents, being pretty much grabbed up, and shipped different places. And now what they're doing is they're coming against Judah also, because you have to remember the prophecy states, matter of fact, let's start off with that. The prophecy states that both kingdoms would be, persecuted together. And this has never happened ever in history, because the nation of Israel has not come together as a whole, ever until this time. And I asked Chad about a particular scripture, which Lord's will, we're going to get into it just to see, what they say if it was fulfilled or not. And they say part of it was partially fulfilled. Some teach that it was partially fulfilled. Some say it was fulfilled during the time when the Messiah was on the scene. And others say that it hasn't yet been fulfilled. Well, we here at Great Millstone, former One Westers, it's been revealed to us that it's being fulfilled now in these times. And it doesn't say that the whole nation is going to come together, but you're going to have, the elect, the ones that are part of the elect of all 12 tribes that are going to come together in agreement in these times. And this is what we're witnessing. All right. So this, what's happening with the ICE agents coming against the Northern Kingdom and the Southern Kingdom now is prophetic, and it's beautiful to see. The reason why I say it that way is because it's fulfilling prophecy and it's bringing, everything to a close. So Jeremiah 50:33 says, "Thus saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem Shab host, the children of Israel, which is the northern kingdom, and the children of Judah, which is the southern kingdom, were oppressed together. And all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go." And we see that happening right now. Now let's look up this word oppressed. So it's no coincidence that they started with the northern kingdom. Northern kingdom reached out to the southern kingdom for help because, the southern kingdom is more, experienced in dealing with these situations because they've been going through it, since they were brought here in slavery, so they know how to maneuver around, this thing. That's why the northern kingdom reached out to them, which was all spiritual. It was a spiritual cry, and a majority of them laughed. But look what's happening now. They're grabbing up, they're going around. They were on what's that, Canal Street, which is right around the Chinatown area in New York. And instead of grabbing so-called Chinese nationals, Moabites, they're grabbing up Jake. Here it is. You're in a place where it's predominantly, Moabites there. They got all type of businesses, but you're grabbing up Israelites. You're grabbing up the southern kingdom. So what is it really all about? It's really about getting the Israelites out of America, because these devils see that the truth is prevailing and that the truth is waking up, the elect, and they thinking it's all of Israel, but it's just the elect of the nation of Israel. That's why a lot of them can't get it, because they're not all a part of the elect. So the word oppressed here is Aishak. And the word Aishak means to press upon, oppress, violate. See, so they're violating, because a lot of what they're doing is a direct violation to the Constitution. But the Constitution, like George Bush Jr. said, is nothing but a goddamn piece of paper. That's how they look at it. That's how they view it. This is why everything that Esau does is so ambiguous, because they never give you direct, definitions of these different provisions, because whenever the provision pops up, it's open for interpretation, depending on who's, given the interpretation. And that's the problem with the so-called legal system, because it's not etched in stone. Now the Bible is etched in stone. It means what it says, and it says what it means. There's no wiggle room to get around to say, okay, no, well, this means this, but in this particular case, it means that. But when you apply it to this situation, it means something else. And this is why the Lord said, when you sit as a judge, you're supposed to give the right judgment. You're not supposed to accept gifts, because a gift destroys the heart and causes you to give wrong judgment based off of the person that pays you the biggest amount of money. But with Esau, it don't mean nothing. It says defraud, do violence, and you see they're doing violence. They're if you try to avoid them, they might delete you. So it's getting to that point where they'll just they'll take you out if they have to. It says get deceitfully, and this is how they're doing it. They're getting deceitfully, because they say they're coming against the immigrants, but then they're grabbing up Judah. They're grabbing up southern kingdom that have nothing to do with coming through those borders. They're grabbing up those that were born here in America, that have citizenship, that they've been here for the longest. Their ancestry goes all the way back to the first the first so-called slaves that were brought to America. And they're being targeted. Because if it was all about immigration, if it was all about migrants, they would have been grabbing Chinese nationals. They would have been grabbing, you know, other Edomites that are here illegally. They would have been grabbing, you know, Ishmaelites and Elamites. You know, you would have seen a plethora of different nations, you know, ICE agents in these different, because you have, you know, you have communities where you just have Elamites. You have communities where you just have Moabites. You have communities where you just have Ammonites. You have communities where you just have Ham, Elam, and Ishmael. So why don't they go into those neighborhoods and police those neighborhoods and grab up those of them that are here, so-called here illegally? Because it's not about them. It's about the Israelites. It's all about the Israelites. It's always been about the Israelites. Because these devils understand. See, the average person, they're looking at it from a point of view of racism, you know, of looking down, you know, and say, yeah, get them out of here. But the elite, the ones that are higher up, the ones that know what's going on, the ones that have the records, they know what they're doing, and they know who they're targeting, because they know that the prophecies are being fulfilled, and they're nervous because although they're proud and that pride, you know, is blinding them, they're still nervous because they see the prophecies being fulfilled, although they're pulling all stops to try to stop what's going on, you know, out here today, prophecy wise. But you can't stop that. All right. So it says oppress, right? Do violence together. The word there is yachad, which means union, unitedness. So the whole kingdom, from the southern kingdom to the northern kingdom, are being oppressed together here. And this has never happened in history, because there have never been a time when all the 12 tribes were together after that split. Now you had a handful of the northern kingdom that went back with Rehoboam. They went back with, with Judah, of some of the tribes, but as a whole, there has never been a union, of all 12 tribes until now. And this is why that 12 tribe sign was so important. And this is why, the spirit was on the elder high priest Ariah to get up. I believe it was like 3 a.m. or something like that. Go to the school, which was around the corner from where he lived, in the building where high priest Yaquab lived, where Apostle Gabar lived, and some of the other men that were going to the school, and went there, and the spirit just gave him, tribe of Judah, so-called nigga, which, they already knew that, tribe of Benjamin, West Indian, and all the way down to Issachar, so-called Mexicans. Then from that point on, when he wrote all that down, then the spirit was on him to go into the scriptures and to do heavy research, in the scriptures, and in history, to get all of the necessary info to back all of these statements up. Now you either gonna see it or you're not, and we're not in the business right now to make you to see it. We're here to inform you. We're here to tell you. We're here to dictate it to you. Whether you believe it or not, that is not our concern. Because if you believe it, beautiful. If you don't believe it, then you're not going to change anything. You're not going to change this truth. You're not going to change the spirit of the Lord. You're not going to change this prophecy just because you don't believe it, because you have an attitude with it. The Lord is not concerned with your belief or unbelief. We're just here to tell you what the Lord said, and that's that. If you see it, beautiful. And a few will. Yep, Amos 3:7. Surely the Lord power will do nothing, but he revealeth the secrets unto his servants and prophets. That's right. So it says together, all together alike. So the 12 tribes would be oppressed all together, as we just read. And right here, it says, I shall walk yum. Yum at the end makes it plural. So that means both kingdoms will be oppressed together. So now Judah, is being persecuted also. And, the spirit, revealed to me that when the kingdoms, were divided, the first kingdom to fall was the northern kingdom. And that's why the northern kingdom were the first ones to be persecuted here, as far as what's going on right now. But now it's coming upon the southern kingdom. Why? Because prophecy trump prophecy, man. You can't stop prophecy. There's nothing that trumps prophecy. Nothing. So that's why it's happening. So Judah catching hell now, and not just from the ice agents, they're catching hell from not being fed by the serpent anymore. The serpent is pulling back all those goodies that they were giving you. And this is why this guy George Gordon, he did a series, or not a series, he did a podcast years ago. No, I believe it was either a website or a radio station where he called it the pigs of the Oiki Fenoiki. And pretty much what it was a conditioning of getting these wild pigs, to stop hunting and to depend on him to give them food. And the more he gave them food and the more they trusted him, he was building a fence around them, to where there was still some that were a little suspicious, but they, kept coming around. He left the gates open, and when he got the gate all the way around, he left both openings open so they could come in and go out as they pleased. And then he kept feeding them and kept feeding them. So they got so comfortable in that eventually they came in and he shut one gate, and they will go into one gate, go out to one gate. And one day when they all went in there to feed, he shut the other gate and had them all trapped. So pretty much this is what Esau does. He traps Jake with all of these goodies, with the so-called, EBT, the SNAP, the food stamps and the welfare and all of that, so that they can be dependent only on him. But now he's snatching that rug from under you. Now you're in a quagmire, because what Esau is doing right now, he's going to the next phase of his agenda, which is to make people comply to this new system that they have coming in place. And that's why they're making it hard. That's why they have this government shutdown. And there's a lot, things going on with that government shutdown, suppressing information coming out, suppressing votes to get certain information out, and so on and so forth. But it also is a way for them to reset the whole system. Because what better way to reset the whole system than to shut the old system down and then bring the new system in, and people being desperate because they're not getting the benefits that they used to get. So, well, look, all you got to do is accept this. And once they accept that, guess what? It's open for anything else. Because let's say they when they get ready to open back up, or they get ready to give the stamps back to Jake, depending on how long they hold out on, and they'll say, well, look, you have to get a digital ID in order to get your stamps. What do you think Jake's going to do? They're going to go for it, because they just want them benefits so that they can continue to feed themselves and their families. So once you get that system on that digital ID, now it's open for anything. It's open for the micro CHIP. It's open for any form of payment. Why? Because their goal is to get the system up and running where everyone is a part of it. Then eventually they can put in the necessary provisions to bring it out. There's a clip going around right now, a movie from 1981. If brothers remember the name of it, you can put it out. I can't think of the name right now. It's two-part name. And pretty much they were talking about the collapse of the dollar. They were talking about, putting permanent tattoos on people, so that they can, work in this new system. So they've been doing it. They've been wanting to get this system in place, but they never had the technology, advanced technology back then to do it. But they have it now. And this is what it's all about. Early warning, the water, brother, the water, the elder Hawad out of North Carolina, the water, bro. Early warning. And that is a very telling thing. And this is why we tell you have something called predictive programming. Predictive programming is just that. And then when you go to look it up, it said, well, it's a conspiracy theory. But wait a minute, why are all these ancient movies, all these different movies going back to the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, or whatever the case may be, 90s, all showed something that's happening right now? Because this is what Esau does. He's setting up this trap to catch the poor, as it says in Psalms the 10th chapter. And he does catch the poor. Why? Because the poor are dependent on him. That's why it says, let's get one more precept and then we can get some of these other precepts. Go to Isaiah 10. There's one of my, one of my new favorites. I love the way this is written. Isaiah 10 and 20. It says, and it shall come to pass in that day. What day? Right now, in these times. It says that the remnant, meaning the elect, the remainders or the elect of Israel, and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob, escaped from what? The clutches of Esau. This goes into both houses of the nation of Israel. Shall no more again stay upon him that smote them. What does it mean to stay? Meaning to trust, in this individual, in this person, to rely on, right? Let's look up the word stay. The word there is sha'ain. Sha'ain. Right? Sha'ain means to lean. See? To lean on, trust in, support. So they're no longer going to lean on or trust in Esau for support, meaning the elect of the nation of Israel, right? So what are they going to do? But shall stay upon Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, the Holy One of Israel. What? In truth. So they're going to lean upon the Lord Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, in truth and not lean upon Esau. That's why the Apostle Paul used the analogy of Elijah the prophet, where the Lord said, I have reserved 7,000 men that have not bowed the knee to the image of Baal. So you're going to have a certain amount of Israelites that are a part of the elect that are not going to bow to the image of Esau. They're not going to accept any of Esau's ways. They're not going to fall for the okie doke. The scriptures say, if at all possible, they will deceive the very elect. But they can't deceive the very elect, which shows you that the way they're going to present this thing is going to be in a very deceptive way to where the whole world is going to be deceived into taking it. So the majority of people are going to be deceived into taking it. Then it's going to come a point where the voluntary, actions are going to be stopped and it's going to be made mandatory. And that's when even more of a persecution is going to come for those that fear the Lord. So the word there is amath, which is truth, firmness, faithfulness, truth. So they're going to stand sure in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, leaning upon Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, trusting in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, not in Esau. All right, so let's go from there. I want to tap into a couple of these precepts. Let's go to the Apocrypha first, where the name of the lesson came from. This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 5. We're going to start at verse 1. The point is a little further down. Ecclesiastes 5 and 1. Set not thy heart upon thy goods. Right. And see, Jake is comfortable in this society. That's why you had these women talking all that stuff. Look, I got this and I bought this for my EBT and I got all this food and thank you for my dinner, for my rice and for my cube steak and for my, so-and-so and this, that, and the other. Because Jake is comfortable here. They don't want the society to go down. They don't care that they where they live at is moldy. They don't care that where they live at the pipes barely work. They don't care that the lights don't work that great. They're comfortable. They're snug like a bug in a rug. And say not, I have enough for my life. Right. Don't see Jake is to the point where they're so comfortable because they got everything coming to them round the clock. They have no need of anything, especially these women. They got daddy welfare, right? They got Section 8. They got food stamps, for the food. Then they got suckers on the hook for child support. So these women are living it up. They're living their best life. All they gotta do is lay on their back. They don't know how to, most of them don't know how to cook, but they know how to lay on their back. They know how to blow rod, they know how to do all that. And this is pretty much the mindset. So they're straight right now. This is why they get on TikTok and all these different other social media platforms and talk the talk they talking, that bullshit they talking. because they're not being hit yet. That's what the Lord said, rise up, you women that are at ease, because it's about to get real out here. And you're seeing right now, what you're seeing is Esau threatening not to give you, anything or any food stamps on the 1st of November. And you see them bugging out, wilding out, going crazy. So just imagine when it really hits and you ain't getting nothing. That's going to really get real. So this is what we're witnessing right now. Because Jake got comfortable. It says, follow not thine own mind and thy strength to walk in the ways of thy heart. And Jake, that's what all Jake does. And say not, who shall control me for my works? Right. Y'all guys going into that Bible, you under that control of the Bible and all this, that, and the other. I ain't controlled by nobody. Well, yeah, you are. Because if you don't fill out that paperwork, if you don't comply with Esau's terms, guess what? You ain't getting those goods. That's why it says that the remnant shall not trust in or lean on him or stay upon him that smote them, but shall trust in the Lord Yahweh Bashem El Shai in truth. For the Lord will surely revenge thy pride. And we're coming right now to the revengement, if that's even a word. The vengeance of the Lord upon you Israelites out here for your great pride, for your stiff neck, for your hard-heartedness, for your adamant brain, for your adamant foreheads. He's going to put it to you. He's going to stick it in you. Inside joke. He's going to start hitting you with Esau, with taking away these goodies. It says, say not, I have sinned, and what harm hath happened unto me. Right. You do all manner of wickedness. You're a super slut, adulterous, you are adulterers, you're moles, you're both men and women. And ain't nothing really happened to you. So you're like in the mindset of Esau. Since nothing happened, God must be with me. It says, for the Lord is long suffering. That's what it says. Seek ye the Lord while he may be found. Call upon him while he is near. He will in no wise let thee go. Right. Because the Lord is bringing judgment. Everyone will be judged. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. No one is exempt from judgment. Concerning propitiation, be not without fear to add sin unto sin. Right, because, Yahweh Shai became the ultimate propitiation. The ultimate, pretty much amendment. The ultimate, price he paid to redeem us of our iniquities, of our sins. But Jake just keeps compounding sin on top of sin on top of sin on top of sin. So eventually what's going to happen? Just like Esau, eventually that bill is going to come up. And the bill is going to be paid or start to be paid during the time of Jacob's trouble, which we're in the beginning stages of that. And say not, his mercy is great. He will be pacified for the multitude of my sins. Yeah, because you Israelites out there, you go on without any fear of the Lord. You go on without a care of, no care, no thought in mind that, I shouldn't be doing this because this ain't right. The Lord, don't like this. You don't have that fear anymore. So the Lord is he's going to put that fear back in you. And you're just seeing the beginning stages of it. It ain't really get hot yet. The water is just starting to bubble a little bit. It's starting to get a little warm. It's getting a little hot in here. Inside joke. It's getting a little warm. And you're starting to get a little uncomfortable, a little hot and bothered around the collar. Oh, it's gonna get bad out here. It's gonna get bad. It's gonna be real bad, And now we're seeing the prophecies of the Lord taking root, biting down. Because when it comes down on you, you either collectivize or you run like a solitary rat. Inside joke, Salakia. Salaki for my doveness. It says, for mercy and wrath come from him. See, mercy and wrath come from Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. He's long suffering, but there come a point where he said, okay, I had enough. Now it's time to bring hell upon thee. And his indignation resteth upon sinners. So the Lord's righteous anger resteth upon sinners. So there's going to come a point where you're going to have to pay. So I said, this is the main point here. Make no tarrying to turn to the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai and put not off from day to day, as a lot of Jake is still doing. For suddenly shall the wrath of the Lord come forth. So it's going to break out of nowhere. It's going to break forth suddenly. Even though the Lord is telling you, warning you constantly, you're seeing the signs of the society and collapsing and breaking apart. You're seeing signs of your trouble coming, but you're still not giving heed because it still hasn't fully collapsed. You can still go to Popeyes and get a chicken sandwich, with some French fries. You could still go to McDonald's and get, burgers and fries. You could go to these different. You could go to Domino's and get a fake pizza. You could go to all these different places. You could still eat. So you're not concerned with what's coming, even though it's all the signs are everywhere. So the Lord said it's going to suddenly, the wrath of the Lord is going to suddenly come upon you. And in thy security, this is the point, shall thou be destroyed. In thy security shall thou be destroyed. In thy security shall thou be destroyed. So when the northern kingdom was being persecuted by ICE, and some of you, Judites, southern kingdom out there were laughing at it, you were in your security because you didn't think it was going to come upon you. Now you're starting to get dealt with. Why? Because the prophecy states the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together. We're in this thing together. But you're trying to separate yourself. And yeah, you got a lot of fucked up northern kingdom. And I say fuck them. Bunch of, racist, me no black, papi. And it goes deeper than that. This one Dominican chick was breaking it down, how that was pretty much ingrained in them from when they were young, to say don't marry blacks, basically, because they didn't want that negative connotation that came with it. So it was ingrained in their brain. That's why they said, me no black. But you're going to get it too. So it says, and in thy security thou shalt be destroyed. So you never thought that it was going to come upon you. Now it's coming upon the southern kingdom. The Jake that they had hemmed up, right? He was a Judite from Brooklyn. And they ICE had him hemmed up against the wall. Where were you born? I was born here. I was born in Brooklyn, man. I was born in, I'm from Brooklyn. I was born in Kings County Hospital. And eventually they let him go. But the point is, you're supposed to be coming against the migrants, right? Really, you should have just said, just target all Latinos. You shouldn't have said migrants, because you're not going after the Arabs. You're not going after the East Indians. You're not going after the Chinese. You're not going after the Japanese. You're not going after any other nation except for the so-called Latinos. That's what you should have said. No, well, the ICE agents are only targeting so-called Latinos. But then here it is, you starting to grab up dark-skinned people from the southern kingdom. Why? Because of prophecy. So in thy security thou shalt be destroyed and perish in the day of vengeance. So let's go from there. Let's go to Amos. Right? Let's go to Amos. Let me leave that just in case we got to go back there. Let's go to Amos chapter 6. I know the elder had put it up earlier. Amos 6:1. Woe to them that are at ease in Zion. So a lot of you have been at ease. You're not living, the life of Riley. You're not living a luxurious life. You're not living, the life of the rich and famous. but you're living your best life in the raggedy condition that you're in, but you're comfortable, you're at ease, because you know Esau gives you, the serpent gives you your food, they give you your raiment, your everything that you need to be sustained, a roof over your head, and pay for that. It says, and trust in the mountains of Samaria, which are named chief of the nations, to whom the house of Israel came. So you had a point where the northern kingdom was comfortable. They were worshiping all different type of demons and gods and goblins and ghouls and all of that, right? And idols. And they were doing good. But what happened? The Assyrians came and took them down first. Then the Assyrians, empire started popping off at Judah, because they took down all these different nations. They took down the northern kingdom. Then they thought they were going to be able to take down the southern kingdom, but the southern kingdom wasn't going to go down until the Neo-Babylonian Empire took them down, years later. So verse 3, ye that put far away the evil day, because this is what you do. You put far away the evil day. And the thing is, it's not that you don't know. It's not that you're ignorant of this, because it's out there. The Hebrew Israelites, what we teach about the Hebrew Israelites, it's a talking point in many different circles in the world today now. You have average people out there that are not into religion, that are not into truth circles, that are not into any podcasts or anything like that, that know about the Israelites. So it's a talking point. So it's not like you're ignorant of it. You know what's going on, but you choose to, scoff at it, because the majority of people scoff at it. So you don't want to be associated with something where you could be ridiculed. Instead of taking the time to look into these things and say, wait a minute, they're saying this, that, and the other. Okay, let me see if what they're saying is true. And if you did a little research, if you're part of the elect, you'd be like, nah, I don't know. They're saying that this is wrong, but I don't know, this is right. And then you had instances like that, where you had individuals giving testimonies that they woke up to the truth by seeing or watching vocab. And they said that that vocab was talking bad about the Israelites, but then when they started doing the research, they said, nah, this is the truth. So vocab is working for the Lord on the left-hand side. Thank you, vocab. And cause a seed of violence to come near, right? Because by you doing that, you're preparing a table for that truth, and you're causing a seed of violence to come near. Because the more wicked you are, the more laid back you are, the less you are concerned with pleasing the Lord and serving the Lord, the more you cause this time of trouble to get closer and closer to where you're going to really feel the wrath of the Lord knocking at your back door and the front door and the side doors and the windows and all of that. There's going to be no escape. You're going to get hit with whatever kind the Lord said you're going to get hit. The dogs are tear, famine, deleted, the sword, whatever the Lord said was going to come upon you, right? It says that lie upon beds of ivory and stretch themselves upon their couches, right? And you in whatever place you're at, you living comfortably, whether you got luxurious stuff or not. Because you go for the name brand bullshit, which the name brand bullshit comes to find out that it's being made in China, and the only reason why it's stamped genuine or whatever the hell the word is, legit or whatever the hell it is because they ship those products after they made cheap in China, and then they'll send it to Italy or wherever it is, or France, and then they'll put the label or the logo of that particular company on it, and now you're paying $20,000 or something that was made for $200. Birkin bags and Louis Vuitton and your Gucci's and your and all that other nonsense that is being made for dollars on for pennies. For a couple of dollars, you're paying top dollar, paying $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 for a goddamn bag that only took about maybe $500 to make, if that. So they got you. So you living you living your best life, and eat the lambs out of the flock and the calves out of the midst of the stall. And you hear them. Yeah, I thank you, for this meal that we got. We eating rice and cube steak and and this, that, and the other. It says that chant to the sound of the viol and inventing themselves instruments of music like David, right? And you have, the lousy music that you listen to, trap and drill music and all that madness. Like Apostle Tahar used to call it years ago, horror music, right? It says that drink wine in bowls, right? You're drinking that cheap ass wine, but nevertheless, you're doing good, and anoint themselves with the chief ointments, right? You got the latest perfumes and all of that, right? But they are not grieved for the affliction of Joseph. You're not feeling bad for what's happening to the northern kingdom. Back then, this was when the northern kingdom was taken down. So it was a time of reflection. It was a time of mourning. And the southern kingdom should have been mourning because we're your brothers, right? But they weren't grieved for that, just like they weren't grieved for it now. Even though you did have some that were, but the majority of them were not grieved. But now it's coming on you. You're being dealt with now by the same individuals that you thought were only coming against the so-called Latin tribes, the northern kingdom. Now it's coming upon you. You see? Can't you see? It says, therefore now shall they go captive with the first that go captives. Yeah, because when they snatch your ass up, if they get you, if they zip tie you and throw you in one of them trucks, you don't know where the hell you're gonna end up. You could end up in Ecuador, you could end up somewhere in Africa, you could end up in wherever. Whatever place around the world they have set up. Like that one individual, I forgot his name, that they grabbed up. I don't know if they let him go yet. They were speaking about him. But hey, this is the time of Jacob's trouble. It says, and the banquet of them that stretch themselves shall be removed, right? So all these goodies that you have, it's going to be removed. Remember, it said they're going to come breaking in your house, taking everything you have. Let's go to 2nd Ezra 16. And the scriptures don't change. It'd be the same scriptures over and over again, but this is prophecy. Truth is truth. This is 2nd Ezra 16. I'll start at 68. For behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you, and they shall take away certain of you and feed you, being idle, IDLE, which means stable, not moving, with things offered unto idols, right? Because when you go to these places, what are they going to offer you? The micro C-hip. And that's to their idol. It says, and they that consent unto them, meaning those of you sellouts that help or that partake in this, shall be had in derision and in reproach. Why? Because the Lord is going to eventually destroy you. And once Esau uses you up and he doesn't need you, he's going to cast you to the curb. He's going to kick you to the curb. Ask those Gadite scouts. Watch the movie Geronimo, especially at the end, when the scout that helped to destroy other Gadites for the so-called white man, for Esau, at the end, when they took all of the braves down and everyone was going to the reservation camps, what happened? They had the scout in the wagon chained up with the rest of them. And what did he say? You were right to hate the white man. No shit, Sherlock. And you were wrong, for helping them. And trodden underfoot. Yeah, you see that. You see when they slamming hoes out there. They don't give a damn if you're a woman, old, young, if you're a cripple, if you're a baby, they coming in like madmen. For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection, an uprising upon those that fear the Lord, the Israelites in general, but also those that are of the elect. They're going to try to, do harm to them, but the Lord's going to keep them devils back. The only ones of the elect that are going to suffer, deletion are the ones that are set up and written in the scriptures to glorify the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua in that fashion. They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. And you see this happening. You see it happening. You see how these ICE agents are rolling. They got a spirit on them to not give a shit or a damn, whether it's a man, woman, whatever. Their whole thing is about what? Everybody we get equals money. Now, I don't know what the average, if a brother knows, if they could post it, I believe it's $1,000 a head. For every body they bring in, they get $1,000. But the economy as bad as it is and jobs as bad as they are, what do you think they're going to do? They're not going to be like, well, we got to make sure we got to vet this person, make sure that they really are. And no, snatch everybody up. We'll sort it out later. Because their thing is about getting paid. And they're looking at 10 individuals, that's 10 G's right there. They're looking at 20 individuals, that's 20 G's right there. And if there's 5 of them, they splitting that, 5 ways. So the more they get, the more bodies they get, the more money they make. It says, for they shall waste and take away their goods, see, and cast them out of their houses. Why? Because it's the time of the Lord's vengeance, the time of Jacob's trouble. So you're going to be comfortable. You're going to be in that security, and suddenly you're going to be destroyed. Do you see how they were kicking in doors, breaking in doors, and just snatching people up? They don't give a shit. They're coming hard, and they're coming fast. It says, then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in the fire, right? Because they're not going to be able to roll on the elect like they roll on everybody else. The Lord said, when the enemy shall come in like a flood, then the Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against them. So the Lord is going to cause a divine intervention for the elect. That's why Yahweh said, because you have kept the word of my patience, you suffered for my word's sake. You caught hell for my word's sake. You were under that scrutiny. You were demonized for my word. You suffered all these things. I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that are on the face of the earth. So that's why it's important to do the work of the Lord, to put your all into this, because it's a future investment. This is the greatest commodity that you will ever earn, or the greatest commodity that you will ever own on the planet. The greatest investment that you would ever make in your life is building up your spiritual bank account, because shit is getting bad and it's going to get worse. But your devotion, your love, your zeal, your care, your using your talents of the Lord up, putting that work in, is going to be what's going to give you, that hedge when these times come. So if you're the individual that's I got to do this again, oh my God, then chances are you're not a part of the elect, or you got heavy demons on you, and you need to exercise them out of you. Because this is the greatest investment, the greatest commodity that you will ever own. And it was given to us as a free gift. Like you had them clowns at the ISUPK talking about that, the Holy Spirit is given by keeping the law. No, it's not. That's why the Apostle Paul cursed out them Galatians, you foolish Galatians. Did you begin in the Spirit, and are you now made perfect through the law? The law made no one perfect. The law is perfect. The law is holy. But in order to really be tapped into that, you have to keep it 100%. And it's impossible for us to keep it 100% because we're not built like that right now. Anyways, 74, hear, O ye my beloved, saith the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same. So it's coming down the pike, man. So let's go from there. The second Ezra 6 now, chapter 6. And we're going to start at verse 18. I'm going to read a few verses here. Second Ezra 6:18. And it said, the voice, behold, the days come that I will begin to draw nigh and to visit them that dwell upon the earth. And we're seeing the Lord visiting the earth right now. And this is why he gave Esau the technology of the internet to be able to be used as a mechanism to disseminate or to push out and to spread his words. Because it said, when this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached throughout the four corners of the earth, then shall the end come. We know the Catholicism ain't it. We know Christianity ain't it. We know Islam ain't it, because these are three of the top religions out there that are prevalent all over the world. We know that Buddhism and Hinduism ain't it, because everyone knows about that. The world knows about that. Zoroastrianism and all these other different religions that have been out there for centuries that people all around the world know about are not it, because the end hasn't come. This is it. And this is why you see now that this truth has been taught throughout the four corners of the earth, that these prophecies are boiling over. You never hear these Catholics or these Christians or any of these other individuals talking about the end of the world. It's very rare you hear anyone in the Christian circle speak about that, unless they're individuals that are into prophecy. But the majority of the world under Catholicism, Christianity, Islam and all, they ain't talking about the end of the world. They're not talking about, the prophecies, the major prophecies that are happening right now. Why? Because that's not the way. It says, so the Lord is speaking right now. He's visiting the earth. This is why you see these uproars. Why? Because the word of the Lord stirs emotions. The word of the Lord stirs things up. It cuts to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit. It cuts deep. It moves things. That's why all we got to do is stay within the boundaries of the scriptures when we're out there teaching. Because the word is going to do the rest. So these individuals that's into, going to gun ranges and all that, those are all gimmicks to gather, individuals out there that are into that type of lifestyle. So that means they're not coming to this truth for the word's sake. They're coming to it because it caters to their lifestyle. So that means you come into this thing because you feel the Lord should work around your life and not the other way around. And will begin to make inquisition of them what they be that have hurt unjustly with their unrighteousness, and when the affliction of Zion shall be fulfilled. So the Lord is making an inquisition. That's why the prophets are out there revealing these devils, telling them what they did or what they've done, and that they have to pay for it. And they're trying to scramble and wiggle around, and slither around because they don't want to pay. This is why you have the vocabs and these sellout apologists among Jake that are trying to defend that white supremacist Christianity, plantation Christianity / Renaissance Christianity. Because they don't want to pay. It says, and when the world that shall begin to vanish away shall be finished. So when the Lord said, okay, now we're at the point, the appointed time is here. Now it's going to begin to speak. So when that point comes, then will I show these tokens. In other words, the Lord will show certain signs to let us know we're at the end of the world. And you could go back in history. Has ever a society, going back to the beginning of civilization, the cradle of civilization, as they call it, over there in the Levant, Fertile Crescent, over there, in Mesopotamia, the plains of Shinar, in that region, right? From that point all the way up until the Industrial Revolution of America and the world, where in history has there ever been a technology such as there is today to be able to send messages from one part of the world to another in seconds, nanoseconds? And the answer is none. So that's one of the major signs that we're at the end of the world and that the Lord is visiting this place. The books shall be opened before the firmament. What are the books? The Bible. What is the firmament? The ozone layer. What do you have out there in around the ozone layer? You have satellites. What do satellites do? They emit signals. To what? To other satellites on the earth. For what purpose? To send signals to these different tablets and phones and laptops and computers and television, TV, smartphones, smart TVs, and all of that. For what? For truth's sake. But it was really for the gospel. All this other stuff, yeah, true. You have a lot of truths out there, a lot of economists that bring out history on the money and the money system and all that. You have truthers that speak about certain things of the Illuminati and all that. Yeah, but the main thing is the gospel. Yeah, I wish I didn't say that. When the conspiracies go throughout the four corners of the earth, or when the truth about the monetary system goes out throughout. No, he said, when this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached to the four corners of the earth, then shall the end come. So that's what we see and witnessing right now. The end. It says, the book shall be opened before the firmament, and they shall see all together. So the world is watching. The world is talking about the Israelites. The world is, you have circles out there that have nothing to do with religion. They have nothing to do with being involved in any, religious group or anything, that are talking about the Israelites. You have cats in the hip hop world talking about the Israelites. You have people in the R&B world talking about Israelites. You have people in the entertainment and the sports arenas talking about the Israelites. In the movies, actors, actresses talking about the Israelites. You have average people in the streets, whether you go to a restaurant or you go anywhere, you go to a store somewhere, you hear people talking about the Israelites. Why? Because we're in the end of the world. And right now, we're in the midst of Jacob's trouble. The Lord's stirring the pot up. He's hitting these devils from all different angles. It says, and the children of a year old shall speak with their voices, and women with child shall bring forth untimely children of 3 or 4 months old, and they shall live and be raised up. And suddenly, this is for you women out there, Yeah, thank you, government. You've been the best father, if father ever been. You take care of your family, you feed us, you clothe us, you put a whole house over our head. And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown. And you see a lot of farmers catching hell, filing for bankruptcy. Then you have these big corporations going around buying up all of these different farms. You have China buying portions and lands in America. And I believe it's lands that the EPA, cordoned off. And they're buying all these different lands. It says the full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. Yeah, because the supply chain is going to break down. And this is why when you go to the stores, you don't see as much substance on the shelves as you used to see. Now you see a lot of that processed shit, a lot of that, chemical shit, but stuff that really, beneficial to the body, you're not going to really see. And you see, and even that processed shit is starting to dwindle. It says, and a trumpet shall give a sound, which when every man heareth, they shall be suddenly afraid, right? Because, you're hearing the trumpet sounding and people are getting nervous. What? I'm not going to get what? My food stamps? What? No, you're not. My EBT? No, man. It's Thanksgiving, man. How can you starve us on Thanksgiving? That's how the devil operates, man. Are you shocked? Inside joke. Are you shocked? Do you think this devil has ever changed? It says, at that time shall friend fight one against another like enemies. Why? Because of lack of food. And the earth shall stand in fear with those that dwell therein. Why? Because it's going to be a global event. It's not going to be one state or one city or one continent or 2 or 3. It's going to be the whole world. This is a global thing. Never in history was a whole globe able to communicate with each other like they are able to do now. Something might happen on the other side of the world, and you may have not ever heard about it till maybe years later. So oh shit, really? No, I didn't know that. Now something happened, breaking news. Within minutes, the world knows what's going on in certain places. That's the technology that they never had ever in history. And that's one sure way of knowing that we're at the very end, with all these different prophecies popping off. The springs of the fountain shall stand still, and in 3 hours they shall not run. Yeah, it's going to be droughts. It says, whosoever remaineth from all these that I have told thee, right, the time of Jacob's trouble, shall escape and see my salvation and the end of your world. And this world, the world of Yahushua, the kingdom of Yahushua, cannot come until this world is totally destroyed. Meaning the current rulers. America, which is the spearhead, which is the power pack or the power source of the world through that cup, has to be put down. The land of Israel has to be put down by Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, because that is was pushing all of the buttons because of the mini caps that are running everything behind the scenes. That has to be taken out in order for Yahushai's kingdom to be established. And the men that are received shall see it, the elect, who have not tasted death from their birth. And the heart of the inhabitants shall be changed and turned into another meaning, right? Because the truth would be taught, and people will start to see differently. And the veil that was pulled over the eyes of the people during a great time of deception of the Renaissance, is the veil is being pulled back. So much so that all type of events in history and things that have happened are being revealed now. All the underhanded dealings of Esau. And that's what these devils are struggling and fighting and squirming to try to patch up all those holes and remove a lot of different things that make them look bad. But it's too late. For evil shall be put out and deceit shall be quenched, because your time of great deception is over. Now it's time for the truth to reveal. And once the truth reveals to a certain point, then comes your judgment, which is the destruction. As for faith, it shall flourish, corruption shall be overcome, and the truth, which has been so long without fruit, shall be declared. And this is what we're seeing happening right now. And the truth is what's destroying all of these. This is what's causing the world to crumble, to corrode. That's why it says the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through the pulling down of strongholds. Because Esau loves it when you pick up arms to fight against him. Oh, they love that, because that's right up their alley. But you hit them with that truth, and they start to feel it, because there's nothing that they could do to defend against that, because they know that they've lied to the world, and they know that for a long time they had the world in deception, and that's how that was their major power. But now that the truth is coming out and they're being pushed back, there's nothing they could do. All right, let's see what else I got here. I'm about to close it down. I'm gonna probably save these other scriptures here for later. But I had a dream probably about a week ago or so, roughly. It was Bishop Nathaniel in the dream. He was sitting up teaching like he normally does. I believe he mentioned Jesus or something like that. And I was looking at him, right? And then he looked at me and he said, remember this, El Sal Nova. And then I just woke up. Now like El Sal Nova, what the hell is that? So I thought maybe it might be a Hebrew phrase. So I started, okay, El, Allah, God. Sal, I tried to find something, in the scriptures in a Hebrew that was something, close to it. I really didn't come up with too much. And then Nova, I said Nova is Latin for new. Right? God knew, so, I kind of like put it to rest, after a while, because I searched and looked and tried to, see what it meant. I couldn't find anything. So then last night, I went back over this page that I was looking at, and pretty much it's a jumble. It's jumbled up. It's Spanish. One of the first word L is Spanish. L is the. Sal could go back to the Latin, something called sausis, ill, or sickness, and then nova is new. So the new sickness or the new ill, So he said, remember this, the new sickness or the new ill. So what it means, I don't know. Maybe it means nothing. Maybe it means something. I don't know. It just, it's just something I remembered, the dream that I had. I don't really have no dreams. Like all the dreams I have are just bugged out dreams, but I just remembered that. So it's the new, it says the new ill or the new maybe sickness or whatever. I don't know. So it's going to get bad out here. So Lord's will, because I got some more precepts here, but this seems like another good lesson. So Lord's will, I may just tap into another lesson, this if the Spirit allows. So at that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Till the next time I say, Shalom.